All right, so we are live. Hello to all you guys. I appreciate you being here. Howdy, dowdy, tooty, tooty, fruity to you. And we're live on our Spreaker format. And we're, of course, live on KGRDB Radio and Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and everybody else. And hello to you guys on TikTok. So, TikTok, right now, I'm putting you guys on sub chat only. But again, that's just for the chat. Everybody can join us. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll open it up for everybody. Okay, so here we are, folks. We're going to have a good conversation. Today's going to be a very interesting topic. It's a topic that I've always loved. It's a topic that I'm quite skeptical on. I'll be full disclosure. I'm very, very skeptical of this topic, but I've always been fascinated with it. And that's okay. That's all right. So what is the topic tonight? It is vampires. Well, we're going to get into that in just a second. First, here's what I want you to do. Oh, well, thank you there, Tammy. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate all you guys being here. Here's what I want you guys to do. Please go to our sponsors of the show, kgradb.com. Thank you. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And they have, I'm telling you, I love the website. They have so many paranormal programs there. And this show airs there as well. But make sure you put Bishop as your promo code when you subscribe. First of all, it's very, very inexpensive. So that's really important. But you're going to get 30% off your subscription when you put Bishop as your promo code. And by the way, nope, I do not receive any financial kickback from that. I told KGREDB Radio, I said, listen, you guys are willing to put, to allow us to do, Facebook and do Bible study and open mic and all this other stuff. So no. So we're just trying to save you guys money. So take advantage of that. But when you go to kgradb.com, put Bishop as your promo code. Well, thank you, because you're going to get 30% off. Really, it's some great shows on there. Now, if you want to go to my website, it's real simple. It's bishopjameslong.com, bishopjameslong.com. Now, folks, I want to remind you that if you want to take classes for free, well, you can. Thank you. Those classes, simply all you got to do is go to bishopjameslong.com, click on the class link, and you can now take 4 classes for absolutely free of charge. Free. They're my classes. They're demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. Take advantage of it. And so enjoy them. And just go to class. And if you want to donate to the church, fine. If not, you don't have to anyway. It's entirely up to you. It's there for you. And that's what it's all about. So, and also, if you want to go to the church's website, usocc.org, that is the church's website. And we would love to have you guys there. And by the way, tonight we have our night prayer coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So at 9:45, we play music. And then at 10 p.m. Eastern, we have our night prayer. It's real simple, folks. Just simply go to, all you have to do is go to usocc.org, scroll all the way down, and you'll see where it says night prayer. Click that big picture. It takes you to Spreaker. And then all you got to do is, if you want to chat, just go to usocc.org, scroll all the way down, and you'll see where it says directions to chat. That's it. So there's a lot there for you guys, but please join us. We would love to have you guys there. That would be a lot of fun. And that's what it's for. It's for to teach and to share knowledge, Now let's talk about a couple of things before we get into our presentation, because we have to mention there are a couple of things that that you need to be aware of. So next weekend, I'm going to be at the West Virginia Penitentiary Horror and Paracon. So that's going to be September the 14th and 15th. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. I really am. I'll be doing a presentation there. I'll be showing several of my haunted items. So if you guys want to do that, please make sure you show up. We're really looking forward to it. It looks like Saturday, it looks like they have me on from 5 to 5:50 p.m. As doing my presentation on Saturday. I don't know anything about Sunday yet, but I'm going to be there anyway. So But it's if you want tickets, WV as West Virginia, WVPenPenTours.com. So WV, so WV, West Virginia, PenPenTours.com. And please make sure you guys go to that site to get your tickets. Again, it's coming next weekend. Next weekend, 14th and 15th. I'm not doing a lot of these. Matter of fact, I'm only doing 2. That's it for this year. And I'm also going to be at the Bel Air House. The Bel Air House in Ohio. Bel Air, Ohio. That's just a couple miles away from the conference, actually. And that's going to be the 13th. And, of course, that's Friday the 13th. So I'm going to be there at the Bel Air House. And by the way, this is really exciting. I want to let you guys know we're going to be doing a live show at the Bel Air House on location. So this is going to be a ton of fun next weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. This is going to be pretty cool. Bel Air House is a very haunted location. And I've not been to Eastern State Penitentiary, but I've heard it's pretty amazing. Next week, will there be Bible study? Probably not. The problem is because I'm going to be about 5.5 hours away from home. And the only way that I'll be able to do that is if I drive a couple of hours and then stay at a hotel. I don't know. At this point in time, I just simply don't know. I'm the type of person that once the conference is over, I want to get on the road, because if I don't, then the next day I know I have 6 hours worth of drive in front of me. So I at least want to take, some. So I don't know. We'll have to play this one by ear, guys. I'll let you know. I'll let you know one way or the other. But now we will have Bible study course this weekend. So that's there. So again, on Friday the 13th. Now, if you want to go and if you want to be there, I'm going to be there. Kristen, of course, is going to be there. There is, I believe, Sean Austin is going to be there. And so we're going to have a good time. But so if you want to go and get the tickets there, BelAirHouseTours.com. And you can call them. There's a phone number. So Thank you. BelAirHouseTours.com. Make sure you give them a call. It's very limited seating. I can tell you that right now. So if you want to go, and if you want to be live when we do the show live, it's going to be there Friday the 13th on Bel Air, Ohio at the Bel Air House. And we will be live. We'll be live right here. So looking forward to that. And hopefully you are as well. And I want to thank, of course, I want to thank Judy Ann. Judy Ann helps me get to these a lot of these locations. And so I'm greatly appreciative of that, because if it wasn't for Judy Ann, then I probably wouldn't get to a lot of these locations. So thank you there, Ms. Judy Ann. Judy Ann serves as one of a big producer for, when I did the Gates of Hell, when I did the Gates of Hell cemetery documentary. She served as the executive producer. So I tell you, she does a lot. She does a lot behind the scenes. And I know she doesn't want me saying it. I know. But hey, I think that was very nice of her. So always got to give credit where credit is due. So tonight we're going to talk about a really interesting topic that just intrigues me, but I'm skeptical. And by the way, I am skeptical. And it's vampires. No matter where you are in this world, I'm sure you've heard of vampires, and I know some things about vampires, but I can't say that I'm an expert on it. I've met a lot of people who claim that they were vampires. So I'm going to say that now. But before and I have my buddy coming on here in just a second, Willie Windwalker Gibson. You all know Willie, and he's going to talk a little bit about some cases that he has worked. And we're going to talk about vampires, and then I'm going to give a presentation afterwards. So we're going to spend a long time on vampires tonight, because I want to give a presentation, a lecture on it. But first, I want to get Willie on here so we can kind of have a good conversation and find out what's up with all these vampires and spookiness and all this. So Willie, how are you doing there, big guy?
I'm doing fine, James.
Now look, we're going to talk about a topic that has vampires always intrigued you as well, or no?
Well, James, when you're a kid and growing up and you watch the vampire movies and they're really scary. You got Bela Lugosi and all these other type of vampire movies. They're entertaining and they're scary, but you figure, they can't be real. Well, let me tell you something. You know my background in police, as a police officer and a detective. Now, a long time ago, this was after I was off the police force and I was in private sector and I was a detective. I get a phone call from somebody that wanted to talk to me about their daughter. And something was going on with their daughter, and they wanted me to investigate. And now this wasn't a paranormal thing. To me, this was just a regular PI case, and I was going to, do whatever I had to do. So I agreed to meet this person, and talk about their daughter. So I go to this. I'm going to keep everything, no names or anything, but. So I go to this person's house, and it's a nice house, and it was kind of in the country like, and I go and knock on the door, and the person lets me in, and I give them my credentials and show them my badge and all that kind of stuff, and they sit down. It's a man and his wife, and they were telling me that their daughter was acting strange, and I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, first of all, I asked them, well, how old is she?" And 18, and she regular teenager, they thought. And they said here lately she was acting strangely, and they thought she might be on drugs or involved in something that wasn't quite kosher. Yeah. They wanted me to check it out and and see what was going on with her. So they gave me a picture and a description of her car and her license plate and all that. And I told them I would look into it. I asked them, what was going on. She said, well, this girl, she's 18 years old and she's first year college and she's still at home. And she would go out of a nighttime and spend all hours of the night and start back in 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And they were kind of concerned about it. Of course, she was considered an adult, but she was still at home and they were worried about her. So I said, okay, I would check into it. So I told them that, I would follow her and, for a few days and see what was going on. So I left and I came back later on that night and I positioned myself in front of the house and waited, just to see what was going on. Of course, the girl came in, early and everything was okay. And about midnight, she left the house. So I followed her and we drove, about 45 minutes. We drove, just outside of Louisville, kind of like in the farm area, and she pulls into this secluded area, and there was a house there and everything, and I went back and I was watching, see what was going on. So I watched and watched and waited, and the house was completely dark. She went into the house, and it was completely dark, except for I could see candle light and stuff like that going on. Well, I figured she's having a date, and I just watched. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, she comes out, gets in the car, goes back home. I follow her. She goes in the house. That was it for the rest of the night. So I went home. So the next day, I called the parents and I said, well, I followed her and she went to this house and I gave a report what I saw and everything. And they said, well, we would like you to stay on the case until you find out what's going on. So I said, okay. So the next night I'm there, and I'm watching. And sure enough, she goes out about the same time, and I'm follow her to the same place. And I said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to find out what's going on. So I waited till she was in there 5 or 10 minutes, and I got out of the car, and I, went up as quiet as I could up to the house, and I ran, and I looked around. I didn't see anything, and I looked around, and I saw a crack in the window. So I looked inside, and she was in there with this couple of other people. And James, let me tell you something. They were doing some kind of ritual or something, and they were cutting themselves, and they were sucking on each other's arms. And I figured I was going to run into some kind of thing, she was doing drugs or doing something else, prostituting or whatever. But they were in there drinking each other's blood. And I stood there and I watched them until they were done. And I quickly got back in my car and I drove away. So the next day, I had the mother and father meet me someplace away from the house because I didn't want a chance of her seeing me with them, because I wanted to be anonymous, because in case I needed to do other things. And I told them what was going on, and they were shocked, and they didn't know how to handle it. I think they would have preferred me finding she was, smoking marijuana or something like that. But finding out that she was actually drinking other people's blood kind of shocked them.
That's insane. And see, and for those of you who are just tuning in, so I'm Bishop Long, and I'm interviewing or talking to my good buddy. We're just having a conversation. Willie Windwalker Gibson, who is a shaman. He's been in the paranormal field for a long, long, long time. Served as a police officer, and talking about some of the cases that he actually worked. And we're talking about vampires tonight. And I tell you what, there's just before you've had this encounter with this person, let me just ask you, first of all, did you believe in vampires? That's number one. And did you really think that she was a vampire, or perhaps maybe just somebody who just enjoyed vampire movies too much?
James, to be honest with you, this was during the time that I wasn't even considered a paranormal investigator. I was a straight detective, and I saw this, and I never really thought about vampires, really. I mean, I watched the movies, and they were scary and all that, but I never had vampirism on my mind, because I wasn't really into the paranormal heavy until the late 80s. Now, this was like in 1982.
Okay.
And all I was doing is chasing people who was cheating on their wives and doing bodyguard work and all this kind of stuff. And I never did even think about that. But when I saw that, I thought it was just something that they, something she was going through, like a what do you call it, hobby or something like that. I never did think of this being like vampirism.
That is insane. And by the way, for those of you who are on TikTok, if you're offering gifts to the, thank you very much for those of you who are offering gifts and who are liking the live and sharing it. Thank you very much. And if I don't thank you individually, for those of you who know, I have two computers running at the same time, so sometimes I can't see. So if those of you subscribing and who are offering gifts, thank you very much. I appreciate that very, very much. Okay, so now, thanks. So now, do you, based on what you have experienced in the paranormal, and of course with this particular case that you saw, do you truly believe in vampires, or do you think that this is just a figment of people's imagination? And in just a minute, we're going to talk about the type of vampires that allegedly exist. So based on the case that you saw and what you witnessed, and of course now being in the paranormal field for so long, do you actually believe in vampires?
Well, I believe that people think they're vampires. Now, there are other cases that I worked was even this one, James, different. I thought to myself that this girl was just going through a phase, and it was just like a hobby or something, and she would grow out of it. Because now this girl was 18 years old, so she was considered an adult. Really, there's nothing I could do about it. Just report it back to her parents. And after I did it, and I reported back to them that she wasn't on any kind of drugs or anything. She was sneaking out and meeting other people, and they were, tasting each other's blood. And there's really nothing they could have done about it, because she was an adult. And they said, well, what do you think we should do? I said, and I told them, that's up to them. I reported to them, and I got paid for what I was supposed to do. And I kind of let it drop, because I figured if she was just going through a phase, and she would grow out of it. But, I backed away from that particular case. So, I believe that people believe they're vampires. They believe in eternal life, and they figure human blood is going to make them live forever, and of course I've ran, and later on down the line, we'll talk about it. But, for this particular case, I let it go for a few years. Now, we're a couple of years down the line, and I get another phone call. And lo and behold, it was actually the girl had introduced herself. It was a woman, and she introduced herself as so-and-so, and I recognized the last name. This was the girl that I was sent to watch, and she wanted to meet me. And okay, I said, okay, I will meet you, but this time I played it a little bit safe. So I had her meet me at a public place, because at this time I figured if she, after these couple of years, and she found out who I was and was calling me, there could be problems. So I went on ahead. I made up a place to meet, which was a McDonald's. I also contacted another detective buddy of mine for a backup. So what I had done is I had him go in, order a meal, sit there with, pretend he was eating lunch or whatever. I went in, I sat down, I waited. Lo and behold, a few minutes later, she pulls up, she comes inside. I told her what I was going to be wearing, and everything. So she pulled, I'm so-and-so, and I said yes, and I showed her my credentials, said down, how can I help you? And she just looked at me, and then she was weird. This time that was weird, because she was kind of thin. She was her color wasn't bright. And, I didn't feel anything, at that time, which I didn't know I was into it, but I didn't feel anything really bad around this girl other than feeling kind of sorry for her. And I said, how can I help you? And she explained to me that her parents back then had told her what they had done. And I had followed her and, the whole case story and all this. And I said, well, how are you doing? And she said, I'm fine, but I would like your help on something. I said, what? And she says, I've been with this, I guess you would say cult, a group of people for several years. And she wants to get away from them, but she doesn't know how, because it started out as fun, but then it transitioned into a more cult-like thing. And this person that was running this thing was telling them what to do and where to go and who to talk to and stay away from people and da-da-da-da-da. And she wanted to get away from that. She wanted to know if I could help her. Now, by now, this girl's, I guess, 25 years old, and she had really changed. I mean, she went from pretty to kind of, wore out. I asked her, I said, tell me exactly what this group of people does. I said, well, we drink blood. We're vampires. I said, what do you mean vampires? He said, we have our leader, so-and-so, and I won't mention their names because I don't know if they're still around the area, because it got to where this got kind of dangerous before it was over with, James. And I want you to help me get away from them. And I said, how old are you? Do you have a job? Yes. I work and I go and I stay there, and he takes my money, and I get so much money to for expenses and stuff, but he takes most of it. I said, this is what this is going on. This is kind of a mind game thing with him. He's a con man who drinks blood, and he had them thinking that they were going to be living forever. And in order to do this, you had to come to me. And what they did, now I will say they did this the way she explained it to me. They were safe about this, because at this time, AIDS was just coming out, and they were getting tested and all this kind of stuff to make sure that everybody was okay. And they only stayed within the group. They wouldn't go out from the group. I mean, they I don't know how many of them, 15 or 20 of them, they would just stay within the family and do this. And she said, well, what do you think I should do? I said, well, you're old enough. You just say, I don't want to be with you guys no more. At least she said, it's not that simple. We were told we will be killed.
Oh my God.
We will be
unalived. We can't say that on TikTok. So unalived.
Okay, unalive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then what do I do? I said, simple. Have you been able to put any kind of money away or anything like that? She said, yes, as a matter of fact, I have put money away that they don't know about. I said, here's what you do. You find a spot away from Kentucky. You go there and you stay, and you don't tell nobody where you're at. You don't call your family. You don't, if you've got a credit card, don't use your credit card. Use cash for a while, and let me see what I can do. And she said, I'll do it. So I had her leave town and get her a place safe outside of town. And after she had left, after I told her what to do, and she had left, my buddy comes over and I told him what was going on. He just let her. He said, "Are you saying we have a vampire case?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But only one thing, I'm not getting paid." I told her that I would see what I could do, and she said, "Well, what exactly did she tell you?" And and I told him that these people come from all parts of life. They were doctors and lawyers and nurses and and one, I think she said one was a teacher. He said, "Here's what we'll do," and I said, and he said, "Well, the guy that's running this thing, he needs to be shook up a little bit." So he said, "Well, here's what we'll do." We devised a plan. We did a letter, and we knew what this guy's name was because she gave me his true name. And we sent a letter. "We know who you are. We know who they are. Back off this person, or we're going to make your identity known to everybody." And we stepped back and we just waited for several weeks, and we never did hear back from them. So I guess they were concerned that their identities would be, revealed, and they backed off. So that was one kind of a cult that this guy was in charge of. I guess they call whatever the title they had for him or whatever, and he had these people under his control. So in order to get her out of that, I had to threaten to expose him. So that was that case, and that's how I did that one.
I tell you that. So he was just a con man. All he was. That was just a big con man.
Yeah. Well, he had them drinking blood, and you're going to live forever, and that kind of thing. You're going to be immortal. Yet the people. I mean, she looked. Wow. I don't know if it was if she was her nerves or whatever, but she didn't look the way she did when she, a few years prior to that. So it was really working on her, and you can tell she got to the point where the blood drinking thing and all that kind of stuff got to her. So he played con man.
For those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. I'm talking to my buddy Willie Windwalker Gibson, who's a shaman. He used to be a police officer as well, talking about some of his cases that he worked. And the topic tonight is the vampires. And just a little bit later on, I'm going to give a lecture. So I did a lot of investigation and research on it. I always do some type of lecture because I think teaching is important. So if I do a topic, I always teach on it. And Willie is going to give, which we appreciate. I really do appreciate him taking the time out and talking about some of his cases. But first, let's get into some of the alleged types of vampires that are out there. Now, whether or not you believe this or not, it's one of those things. Yeah, we're in Kentucky. So here are some, let's get some definitions first. So there's a term called mythical vampires. So it's according to the classical definition that reigned in the Middle Ages, a vampire is an animated corpse that survives by drinking the blood of the living. It also has a demonic nature and is a servant of Satan dedicated to spreading his evil throughout the world. So Bram Stoker added many desirable traits to the vampire, and the myth was later explored and refined by numerous artists. Then there is the psychotic vampire. A psychotic vampire is a person who has a sociopath mental illness that leads him or her to behave like a vampire, and sometimes to actually self-identify as one. And in most cases, this identification is with the folkloric fictional vampires such as Dracula or Anne Rice characters or the vampires in the role-playing games. But more usually, psychotic vampires are simply obsessed with blood and will commit brutal crimes without remorse in order to see, taste, and feel it. Then there are called animal vampires. And of course, it's a vampire bats as well. So the name chupacabra in Spanish and literally means goat sucker. And there seems to be no mention of belief in this creature before the mid-1990s. So the first reports were from Puerto Rico in 1995. Then soon after, there came reports from Mexico, Central America, etc. Now there's also called the human living vampires, or HLV is what they call it. Now, so this is the one that many people that I'm aware of, at least, and there are 3 stages that are awakening, turning, and feeding. So here's the awakening first. Awakening is a term that describes the physical and mental changes that occur when someone awakens and discovers that he is or she is otherkin. Now, the awakening typically occurs during or shortly after the onset of puberty, but in some cases can occur much later, around 30s or even 40s. And then there is the turning. So the method for this turning varies from group to group, but generally involves rite of blood or energy exchange between the vampire and the person to be turned. Blood vampires most often identify as experience of sharing blood with another person who already is a blood vampire. Then there is the feeding. So both blood drinking and side draining, HLV, which again, HLVs are human living vampires, use the term feed to refer to what they actually do. So representatives of both groups have made strong statements to the effect that feeding on either blood or energy is what makes a human living vampire what it is, and that other identifying traits or characteristics, if any, have little or no importance. Now, there's human living vampires, again, HLV. They're individuals who, while they firmly assert that they are essentially human beings, and to all external appearances are exactly that, nevertheless have profound vampiric characteristics and having a need, compulsion, or involuntary tendency to feed upon, or obviously blood or energy, etc. And now, so there's so much. I mean, this is crazy. You would not believe how much goes into this. HLV, human living vampires, fall into two main classes: sanguinarians, who experience bloodlust or blood craving, and then there's psychic vampires or psi vampires, and either one. So whether these two larger categories, there are several subdivisions among them. You can kind of look that up yourself. However, many members of these groups believe themselves to have some form of sensory amplification or extrasensory perception. So many people who are HLV, human living vampires, say that they have improved night vision, sometimes to the point of being able to see without even moonlight, stinging of the skin when exposed to sunlight, an ability to sense other vampires, broader range of senses, perception of auras. Then I mentioned the psychic vampire. A psychic vampire are living people who have the ability, consciously or unconsciously, of draining life energy, life force, rather than blood from others. Now, whether this ability was developed through meditation, mentally altering drug uses, etc., it can be used by the psychic vampire to drain energy for its own use. Then there's a term called Sang, S-A-N-G vampire, sanguine vampire, drinks blood from willing human donors on a semi-regular basis. There is also a blood fetish vampire. So the blood fetish vampire or blood fetish is a human person who derives intense erotic satisfaction from the taste, sight, and feel of human blood. Now, there's so many. Of course, there's also the Renfield syndrome, which we can talk about that a little bit later. But I've heard a lot of conversations about psychic vampires. And okay, so I talked to there was a community that considered themselves a vampire community, and I told them, they were asking me about my demonology, and they said, "So what do you think about a beautiful sunny day?" And I said, "I hate them. I've never ever liked the sunny. It's exhausting. I don't like it. I prefer overcast. I like cloudy. I've always that I feel energized in." And one person looked at me and said, "You're a vampire." I'm a vampire because I like cloudy days. I don't like, I hate, he said, "Do you feel drained?" I said, "Yeah, I don't like sunny days. I prefer overcast. I don't like sunny days." So automatically this guy looked at me with all seriousness. And Willie, he said, "Look, it was like," he said, "You're a vampire. You're one of us." Now, Willie, I don't know about you, but if that's all it takes to be a vampire, then I would imagine that the majority of people who are watching this now or later are probably thinking, well, I guess I'm a vampire too. Isn't that a little absurd?
Yeah, James, it's all about, a lot of this has got to be mental, and a lot of it's got to be is people just want to belong to something. And you talk about psychic vampires. Here's another story for me that I think I told you this years ago, but maybe not.
Yep.
You know, okay, now we're years down the line, and we're like probably in the 90s. And I had been out, you know, doing cases and things like that for a few years. And I would have people come to the house, and I would give them readings, and everything would be fine. And through word of mouth, that's how I met you, because I had a group of people come for readings, and they had met you somewhere, and they told me about you, and that's why I had you on the show.
It was a vampire meeting. I was at a vampire meeting, Willie, a vampire meeting.
Out of this group of people, there's this one particular lady that said, I would like to come back and bring some people with me for you to talk to and do readings for, and we'd like to talk to you. I said, okay. So about a week later, she shows up with about 4 other ladies, and, you know, I had Shaman was entertaining them in the living room, and I was taking them back to my reading room one at a time, and I was giving them readings. Well, this one lady took back to do the reading, and she said, I don't really want a reading. I just want to talk to you. I said, what? What do you want? She said, I drew this picture of Jesus, and I want you to look at it. And she took out, you know, she showed me the regular Jesus with blue eyes and brown hair and all this. I said, but James, this person's eyes, this picture's eyes were kind of hypnotizing. She said, now keep looking at this and tell me what you think. And I said to myself, I know what I got here is the psychic vampire. So I put the picture down and said, lady, what do you really want? She says, my name is so-and-so, and the ladies out there are my disciples, and we want you to be one of our disciples, and you look at me in the eyes, and you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. And I looked at her and said, lady, what is wrong with you? You are going to do what I say. And she started opening her eyes and, you know, give me the goo-goo, hypnotized thing that you would see in a horror movie. I said, lady, that ain't going to work on me. You have no idea who I am, and you do not want to mess with me. Right? You don't know who I am and what I can do. She says, what you're going to do, you're going to meet me tomorrow on 4th Street. I am going to call you, and we are going to be waiting for you, and your name from here on out is going to be Judas. So, oh Lord, I have a house full of kooks. I need to get them out of here because Shaman is going to be in danger. I said, I'm not going to meet you anywhere. Lady, she said, you will. And she slowly, and she gives me the whammy, and she says, you'll be there. And
I can just see this. Look into my eyes and tell me what you'll see. I don't see anything.
No kidding, James. The story goes on.
Oh, good.
Okay. The next day, the phone rings.
Oh, okay.
It's this woman, and she says, this is so-and-so. We are at such and such, and you were going to come to me right now. I said, lady, you get off the damn phone, you know, and don't call me. You are going to do what I say. I said, no, I'm not going to do what you say. And she starts crying. You're the only one that doesn't do what I say. I said, lady, don't you call me no more. Don't you come to my house no more. I'm see you at my front door. I'm going to call the cops, and I'm going to have you arrested for trespass. You call me. Let me tell you who I am. And I told him who I was, and I was a shaman. I said, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to send my spirit guides to you, and they're going to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da to you. I said, wait till the night comes and see what happens. And the phone slams down. And her psychic vampirism didn't work on me, but I have ran into plenty of psychic vampires, James, they wanted to put their whammy on me, and it didn't work.
I swear, you know,
when you run into one of them, you just say, you have no control over me. Get out of my face.
Yeah, this sounds just like a South Park episode. I mean, I could just see it now. Some psychic vampire lady. I could just, it does. It reminds me of, there was one sound, believe it or not. I was flipping through the channels, and on Comedy Central, this is the funniest thing. So they were, I think it was psychics, or it was something. I forgot what it was. I can't remember. But they were doing, they were in Cartman's house, I think. I don't know. But anyway, I was flipping through it, and they were looking at each other and doing do 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 do, and Cartman was doing the do 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 do, and they were all this like, oh my good grief, this like they really thought that they were doing something special, and I could see them, this woman. I'm telling you, Judas, you are going to be one of me. I said, lady, God, just seriously, come on.
She said, James, it's the God's honest truth. She said, I am Jesus incarnated.
Oh,
I'm here on earth, and I'm gathering my disciples. You're Judas, and this is da-da-da, and this is, and she was introducing these women as the new disciples on earth, and she was Jesus. I'm Judas. I was chosen to be Judas, and you're going to be Judas. I said, lady, you're going to get out of my face and get out of my house, and don't call. And she called me. She really called me the next day, and she said, you're going to do this, and you're going to do. No, wow. I ain't going to do this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So I don't know what she thought happened that night. I did send a little something to her, and I never did hear from her again.
Here's what's interesting. It's very interesting that she said, you're going to be Judas. I mean, it's like, lady, have you read the Bible? It's not a compliment. Thanks, appreciate it. But it's kind of like, can you choose another character besides Judas? I mean, seriously, I mean, that's what you're going to give me, Judas?
I got a feeling she wanted me to do some bad stuff for her. That's what I got a feeling for her. She thought I under her, get under her power and do whatever she said. And shoot, mine will tell you, this really happened. I mean, she come here, and you're going to do this, and look at Jesus's eyes. She had done something with his picture, and he looked like he was on LSD or something. And look at this picture, and look at me. Look at this picture, and look at. I said, lady, what is wrong with you? You want to read? No, I don't want to read. I'm come to get you. You ain't going to get nothing. Get out of my house.
That is insane. Well, hello there, Dr. Barnhart. And hello, welcome everybody. For those of you just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. I'm talking to my buddy Willie Windwalker Gibson, who used to be a police officer. He's talking about some of his cases that he worked with people who thought that they were vampires, and a woman coming into his home and saying, "Look into my eyes and tell me what you see. I see a crazy woman." By the way, honestly, now the vampire issue. Now there's some dark side to this. There's dark side because let's not forget. That in Kentucky, there was a vampire clan in Murray, Kentucky, and his last name was Farrell. He claimed to be a 500-year-old vampire named Visago. As a character he created for himself after becoming obsessed with the role of playing the vampire, a game called a Vampire Masquerade. And they did terrible things, terrible stuff. And so there are people that really kind of fall into some bad psychotic individuals who claim to be the leaders and the true vampire leader, if you will, and they do some terrible things. So let me just ask you a couple questions then that I kind of put together. I thought, you know what, we're just going to have a conversation and see what you think about this. And I have my own thoughts on these answers and questions, but when you think of vampires, first of all, what is your perspective on a psychic vampire? Because I know the difference between a psychic vampire, blood vampire, sanguine. I get it. We've already explained that. Do you believe psychic vampire is just absolutely absurd? Or do you think that there is some type of credibility in that term?
James, I can tell you there's people out there, and I've ran into them that they think they can control people with their minds, and a lot of people fall for that stuff. You can break free from that stuff, and I can walk into a room and you can feel the person that's trying to connect to you with their energy. I do believe people can connect with your energy, to make you do things, because I've seen it happen. And I've also seen people use their energy to heal people too. So this person is probably a really strong psychic that can do things that other people can do. I've seen people move things with their mind, and I've seen people that can put a thought into people's heads and make them do it. And it's basically kind of mesmerizing type of thing. Yeah, now I believe there's people that has that kind of energy, but I personally, I've ran into other people that said they are vampires, and I've ran into your usual vampire that has the teeth, and they like to flash them, they like to dressed darkly, trying to mimic Bela Lugosi and stuff like that. It's they want to put on a persona like that. I've met a lot of people that way, and they think that doing that and get in front of me, think that I'm going to run from them. I don't. Usually they kind of back off from me, because that's when I put the juice on, and I can really repel them. Now, as of late, and you know this because you helped me out, I have dropped my guard, and things happened. And that's because I was dealing with all this kind of stuff for a lot of years, and it was like a magnet. It all just opened up and hit me, and shit happened, and we went into, what happened because you helped me out. But
right.
By getting into this field, you meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of people that think they're vampires. You meet people. I've met people that thought they were werewolves, and mimic werewolves, and I've met people that one person actually tried to make me think he was invisible.
Yeah, until you say, "Yeah, sir, I can see you." Now, folks, let me just say this, because I have tried. I have tried multiple times. And I have said that I wanted to speak to someone who believed that they are a vampire. I put it even on TikTok. I several times. I've said, look, for years I have done this. And the only people that have ever one time responded, but never really followed through, claim to be a psychic vampire. I truly would legitimately love to interview someone who absolutely, see, a psychic vampire. That's the problem, because it's like, well, I could say that I'm Santa Claus, because how do you verify? How do you validate that? And so, because anybody can say, well, I take people's energy and I can absorb them, but how do you verify? See, that's the problem, because you just have to say, well, okay, I guess I believe you. And I understand the difference between, Bram Stoker's, and I get it. I understand that, but that's the issue, isn't it? Because you just have to take them at their word that they are.
James, people that are in vampirism or drinking blood, they want to be anonymous. They don't want to go out and tell people who they are, really. I mean, people that are really into this, like a cult or a group of people or a club or like that. Now, online, that people that has vampire pages, and they kind of follow the vampire routine type of thing. But your vampires that are out there that are really think they're vampires, they don't want you to know who they are.
Yeah.
Believe me, and because a lot of them, most of them are professionals. I'm telling you. You got police officers and lawyers and doctors and things like that. They don't want their identities revealed.
No, I understand that. I would interview them privately. I wouldn't even have to have, for my own. But see, for those of you who don't know what a psychic vampire is, a psychic vampire is known as an energy vampire. People are asking me what that is. Well, it's an energy vampire. And it describes an individual who can drain the emotional or psychic energy from other people. So there's there's a metaphysical view, there's a folklore view. So like folklore, it varies. Psychic vampires are akin to traditional vampires, but instead of drinking blood, they feed on the life force of an individual. And from the metaphysical perspective, there's New Age beliefs say that psychic vampires unconsciously or consciously absorb energy from others, depleting their vitality. Now, of course, from a psychological perspective, here's what's very interesting. Many people who talk, psychologists who've written about this, because I've read some reports on this, believe it or not, from psychologists, they have said that many people who say that they are psychic vampires suffer from narcissistic personality disorder or chronic negativity or neediness. So the narcissistic personality disorder are individuals with narcissistic tendencies can exhibit behaviors that drain others emotionally, but constantly seeking attention, admiration, validation, while providing little emotional support in return. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying these are some of the reports that I've read. But it does.
It was just like that lady to come to the house, James. I mean, you're going to do what I say. I'm going to take your power. No, you're not. Lady, get out of my house. It's just, like you said, it's a power trip to them, I guess you would say that. And you know, the people that will come up to you and say, "I'm a psychic vampire, and I'm going to take your," you know, no, you're not, because if you introduce yourself as a psychic vampire, you can fight that stuff off. You know, it's simple.
Yeah.
You can fight it off, walk away. Just walk away.
Now, I do believe that there are people out there that, and again, from a psychological perspective, if they think that they are a psychic vampire and they go around and I'm draining some person's energy, well, that sounds like to me narcissistic personality disorder. Because there's a lot of people out there that they will drain the emotion, your energy from you by constantly seeking attention, admiration, validation. It's constant, nonstop, and it's like have you ever been around somebody, Willie, where you just spend 5 minutes with them and they exhaust you to the point where it's like, okay, I need to break from that person.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're a psychic vampire. It just means they're probably suffering from narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of, James, what I'm concerned about is people who think, you know, they play the part and they could hurt you. You know.
Right. That's right. And those are pretty dangerous individuals. Those are very dangerous individuals. So do you have any other cases you want to talk about before we wrap this up and I go into the lecture?
No, that's about the favorite ones, James. The rest of them are just, you know, are too funny to, you know, like people showing up in capes and fake teeth and all this kind of stuff and said, I'm going to, you know, they try to scare me and all this kind of stuff. Actually, there's, you know, those two cases are basically the ones that stick to me. The other ones are kind of like the lady that hypnotized me type of thing. I've run into people that wanted me to open up a portal and walk into heaven and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
And it's all, you know, it's been a topsy-turvy type of thing that I've gone through all these years. I mean, a lot of it's about 10% of it's funny, 90%. You know, is you know, things that I've really had to do. But there's been some really nut cases out there that I've had to deal with. So I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Well, I thank you for jumping on, at least telling some of your cases that you've worked and expressing that. And so thank you for taking the time. How can people reach out to you, Willie?
Willie Gibson on Facebook and on crystalchief55 at AOL.com.
Yep, crystalchief55 at AOL.com. Willie, thanks again for your willingness to jump on and give us some of your cases. We appreciate that, bud.
Yeah, you know me, James. I've got 60 years of experience. You pick a topic and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Willie. Thank you, and you have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was our buddy Willie Windwalker Gibson. I tell you what, he's he has so much experience in the paranormal community. He does. You could talk about any topic, and Willie has had experience with it because he's just. I mean, when you've been in the paranormal for so long as he has been, you know, you kind of, you really get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Vlad Vlad the Impaler, because many people know about Vlad and the history of how he became known Dracula, if you will. Well, Vlad, commonly known as Vlad the Impaler, he was actually a 15th century prince of a beautiful area, present-day Romania. And he was born in 1431. And he was a member of, you know, it's a branch of a noble dynasty. And his father, Vlad II Dracul, he was a member of the Order of the Dragon. And basically that was created to defend Christian Europe against the Ottoman Empire, which, by the way, bestowed the name Dracul upon him, meaning dragon or devil in Romanian. And consequently, Vlad III became known as the son of the dragon, or Dracula. So Vlad, his reign was marked by a relentless struggle to maintain independence against the encroaching Ottoman and the other rivals. And he gained his notorious nickname, Vlad the Impaler, due to his preferred method of punishing enemies. And as most of you know the story, he impaled them on wooden stakes. And the gruesome practice was intended both as a form of psychological warfare against opponents and as a means of consolidating power through sheer terror. So historical accounts suggest that tens of thousands of people were executed this way during his rule. Now, the association of Vlad the Impaler with the vampire legend primarily stems from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. And while there's no evidence that Stoker based his fictional character directly on Vlad, it's believed that he was inspired that he was inspired by the stories of Vlad's behavior. So Stoker's vampire portrayed a sinister supernatural being with a thirst for human blood, qualities that echoed the fearsome reputation of Vlad. Now, it depends on who you speak to, because there's many people in Romania that actually see him as a hero, because he it certainly was his enemies would approach and they would see people impaled, and they thought, you know what, we're not going to mess with this guy. There's something not right here, so we're just going to turn around and go away. Now, allegedly, and also on some stories, depending on who you speak to, there were times that while people were impaled, Vlad would just sit there and have dinner. And so while, of course, they were, going through this torment. So there's a lot of the discussion about how we came to know about Vlad Tepes and the terrible things that he did. And let's face it, I mean, it was pretty barbaric. But again, he kept off a lot of enemies. He kept them at bay. And they decided they weren't going to stick around for too much longer after they saw the behavior of some crazy, crazy man. Yeah, he was very sadistic. Yeah, I mean, really, if you come up with that type of torture, I remember these people were alive when they were impaled. So this wasn't. Can you imagine? This is terrible. So again, for those of you who are liking the video, thank you guys. We have 101,000 likes on TikTok. So thank you guys very, very much for that. I know it's a lot of work to like it, and I do appreciate that very, very much. So thank you guys. And thank you again for sharing it. I'm going to open it up to chat because I promised at 8 o'clock that I would. So let's open up the chat. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my lecture, because I wanted to get into the lecture of this presentation, because I worked, pretty decently on this, and I tell you, it's really interesting. The story about how it all began, vampires, and the whole story about it. It is interesting. But no, I've met a lot of people who claim to be vampires, but I've never met somebody that I say, you know what, I think this guy, I think this girl, there's something different about them. So as Halloween is coming, it's approaching next month. It's crazy. And darkness envelops us, and the veil between the living and the dead will be close to its thinnest in October. Let's delve into the sinister history of the creature born of nightmares, the vampire. So for centuries, and I'll get your questions after the lecture, I promise you. So for centuries, these beings have prowled the edges of our imagination, shaping cultures and instilling fear in the hearts of humankind. So we're going to journey a little bit through their macabre origins, through history's blood-soaked chapters, and into the present day, where the line between myth and reality blurs disturbingly. So let's talk about the ancient veil, where it all began. So believe it or not, our story begins in the shadowy recesses of ancient civilization. The earliest known vampire, the legends come from Mesopotamia, where tales of the Ikimu or Ikmu and the Lilu, ghastly spirits that feasted on the living, first surfaced. So how terrifying it must have been for the ancients to live under the constant threat of these ghouls, whose insatiable hunger for blood was said to bring pestilence and madness. So then you fast forward to ancient Greece and Rome, where stories of the Impusa and the Lamia, seductive female demons, emerged, of course, luring unsuspecting victims to their doom. It's a tale woven with shadows and truths long forgotten, where veil between the living and the undead was first torn asunder. So for tonight, we're going to speak of the ancient veil of vampires, where it all began. So let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, well, thank you very much. And I appreciate you guys. And I promise you, we'll get to the questions after, a little bit later, around 8:30 or so. So picture this, if you will. A time when humanity was young, the earth covered with pristine forest, untamed wilderness. Ancient civilizations flourished, their knowledge guarded by the whispering winds and the towering mountains. Yet within these civilizations, a certain darkness festered, a darkness even the brightest torchers feared to eliminate. Legend tells us of an ancient tribe that dwelled in the Carpathian Mountains. Now, their existence shrouded in mystery, and this was a time before written word, thank you, before history could capture the essence of their malevolence. So these people were said to have discovered an ancient forbidden knowledge, a ritual that could grant immortality. But as is the way with forbidden secrets, this gift came at a dire price. So the ritual was tied to a veil. It's an ethereal barrier, if you will, that separated the living from the realm of the undead. And by tearing this veil, they could draw forth a life force from the other side, bestowing upon themselves eternal life. Yet ripping this veil was not without consequence. So an unspeakable horror was unleashed, birthing the first vampires. So as the veil was torn, an unnatural chill seeped into the world, and those who partook in the ritual transformed. The sun became their enemy, the taste of blood, their eternal craving. Scholars have speculated about the nature of this transformation. Some suggest that it was a punishment from their gods, a curse bestowed on their hubris. Others believed it was a predatory evolution, a dark survival mechanism. But imagine if you would just for a second, the terror of that first night when these beings, neither dead or alive, roam their villages. And these people truly believe this. Neighbors and kin, once friendly faces, lurked in the shadows, their eyes aglow with a predatory hunger. And the ancient tribes soon realized the enormity of their mistake before it was too late. And the curse spread like wildfire. The thirst for blood, insatiable and all-consuming. So word of these monstrous beings traveled far and wide. As humans are, do sometimes, they fled their homes in terror, inadvertently spreading the curse to distant lands. And the vampire mythos began to intertwine with the fabric of numerous cultures, each adapting, by the way, in the tale of unique context, yet always preserving the core of the terror. See, in ancient Mesopotamia, scholars unearth some tablets warning of the Ikimu. They were restless spirits, thirsty for the living. And across the seas, which is really interesting, in ancient China, tales spoke of the Jiangqi or Jiangqi. They are reanimated corpses that drain the life force of their victims. Here's what's interesting about this. Each culture separated by time and space, but they bore witness to the ripple effect of this ancient veil. The stories are quite similar, but yet they're very, very far apart from one another. That's pretty interesting. So, as your hearts pound and the hairs on your neck rise when you think perhaps maybe you've seen a vampire, remember this: every shadow tale carries with it a seed of truth and lesson. So the myth of the vampires is no different. Beyond the nocturnal terror of the bloodthirst, there's a profound warning against the quest for forbidden knowledge and the hubris of man. See, we talked about a little bit about this veil. This veil teaches us about the perils of tampering with natural order. Just as the ancient tribes sought to conquer death, we too, in our age, seek to push the boundaries of mortality and immortality. And whether through scientific knowledge or advancements or acts of transgressions, we must tread lightly. But remember, it was in the Eastern Europe where the modern conception of vampires began to take terrifying shape. The Slavic folklore, thank you, gifted us the chilling figure of Nosferatu. It's a bloated and monstrous corpse rising from the grave to drain the life of the living. And these malignant entities were not born, but rather created through dark rites, improper burials, and unrepentant sinners condemned to walk the earth eternally. And this is what they believe. Now, the eternal vigil is when you're talking about Halloween, the veil between the worlds thin. So people say you have to remain vigilant. And people say, light your candles and keep your eyes opened. You know, as the Middle Ages gripped Europe in its cold skeletal fingers, vampire hysteria reached feverish heights. It's crazy. Historical records recount chilling events. Corpse being exhumed, staking, and the driving of nails through skulls to prevent corpse from rising. This actually occurred. Imagine for just a moment, this truly occurred. Villagers, torches in hand, desecrating graves, compelled by the sheer terror of loved ones returning with a thirst for blood. See, in those dark times, plague-ridden lands believed that the undead were behind the devastations, spreading death like a malignant shadow. So the figure of the vampire morphed through the Renaissance, growing more sophisticated, yet no less malevolent. So in the 18th century, accounts of vampire infestations in Eastern Europe terrified the Western world. So this case you need to listen to. The notorious case of Arnold Paole. It's a Serbian peasant believed to have become a vampire after death. It actually led to hysteria, unprecedented. His body was exhumed, and subsequent staking bore witness to the tangible dread that these beings instilled. So, in the early 18th century, in a secluded village in Serbia, there lived a man, Arnold Paole. And by all accounts, Paole was an average man. He was a soldier who had faced the terrors of war and returned home longing for peace. Yet, unbeknownst to his friends and neighbors, Paole had brought something far sinister back with him, a dark secret that he could not escape. You see, Paole claimed to have fought against something far more fearsome than any mortal enemy. And he actually spoke of battling the undead in a Turkish land. Specifically, yes, he said vampires. So those dreadful beings who rise from their graves to feast upon the living. But anyway, Paole had, thank you very much. Thank you. 52K, thank you. So Paole had taken all the precautions he thought was necessary to protect himself from these creatures. So he actually smeared himself with the blood of those he had unalived. But it seems that his measures were in vain. They actually believed that this is what you should do. So in 1725, Paole met a tragic end, falling from a great height, and he passed away from his injuries. But death was not the end for Arnold Paole. Within weeks of his burial, strange occurrences began to plague this small town in Siberia. People who had known him began to pass away mysteriously. Their bodies were found pale, lifeless, thank you, drained of blood. So the villagers, gripped by a chill far colder than any winter night, exhumed Paole's body. And to their horror, they found it completely unchanged. His flesh was still a normal color, his color lifelike. Flesh blood seeped from his mouth, and with trembling hands, the villagers drove a stake through his heart, burned his body. But the nightmare did not end there. Thank you, Lynn. So even after Paole's supposed destruction, the deaths continued. And it was as though his cursed touch had spread through the earth. And this is an amazing story. So more graves, believe it or not, were actually opened. More bodies and staked and burned. but the incredible fear lingered. So the story of Arnold Paole is not merely a tale meant to chill your bones on a dark night. It's a stark reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown. And it teaches us that there are forces in this universe that defy our understanding. Forces that can bring ruin and despair, but many people believe. You know, this story, when you talk about this, it is the story of Arnold Paole. It just, when I dug in that, I thought, you got to be the fear must have been unbelievable. Could you imagine living in this time? I mean, it's not as if they had streetlights. So late at night, especially in these small towns, it's pitch dark. You hear noises. You think something is going on. You think perhaps maybe a vampire is outside your home. These people were legitimately terrified. Yeah, this story is actually a legitimate story. Now, obviously, was he a vampire? No. I don't believe it was a vampire. But it's very interesting. Yeah, it's Arnold Paole. Now let's talk about the plague. So imagine the terror experienced during the Black Plague. We know about this, that many thousands of people have passed away. There's a lot of debate on whether or not it was rat feces that caused the plague. There's debate. Many people believe that's what it was. So in their desperation to explain the unexplainable, people actually turned to the supernatural because they didn't know. So accounts of vampirism occurred. So reports of graveyards were disturbed. Corpse with ruddy faces and blood at their lips were rife. So the fear of vampirism spread like wildfire. So in the darkness, the vampire legend found fertile ground. And these were not passive entities. They were active threats. And truly that these people believed that needed to be confronted. And you can understand, I mean, again, when you're thinking of people in the Middle Ages, obviously they don't have the knowledge that we have today. But I can understand people being fearful. Yeah, Julian said, fleas bit the rats, then bit the people. Those working with the horses and in the stables, livery stables were largely not affected since fleas don't like horses. Yeah. But see, that's what the superstition, this is what happens when you have a culture of superstition. I mean, and people truly believe this. And let's not forget about, the church. So the church, straddling the line between faith and superstition, sometimes acknowledge these fears. And through, always urging, faith in God's protection. But there were preventative measures. And the church was involved in many of these, from staking bodies to placing garlic in coffin. And even very elaborate rituals were performed to ensure the dead stayed buried. I mean, if you think about it, consider the desperate hope of these actions, of physical manifestations of a community's collective dread. And that's what it was. Now, there was, of course, the Enlightenment period. The Enlightenment period, it's the rational and the supernatural. So as we move into the Enlightenment period, the Age of Reason did not completely dispel the fear of vampires. Rather, it took on a new chilling dimension. So the Enlightenment brought in it with a scientific approach to understanding the world. But yet stories of vampirism still persisted. And there were post-mortem examinations revealed, thank you, a natural process of decomposition, sometimes misinterpreted as signs of life. So there was writings of Dom Augustin Calmet in the 18th century, testament of the period's struggle to reconcile superstition with emergent scientific thought. And his accounts of supposed vampire cases show that fear can survive even in the dawn of reason during this time. And the Gothic fiction, look, I mean, this era also marked the birth of the Gothic fiction. Authors like Bram Stoker immortalized the vampire in literature through works of Dracula, and weaving modern fears with ancient myths. And these stories reflected societal anxieties, disease, death, and the uncanny. And of course, even in the modern times, in contemporary culture, the vampire remains a powerful figure. But its form has evolved. Isn't it interesting? from menace to anti-hero. So today's vampires often straddle the line between villain and anti-hero. They embody eternal beauty and tragic romance, yet they are never far from their horrific roots. Consider the moral complexities presented in the modern vampire stories where the line between humanity and monstrosity is blurred. We know that with Twilight, the movie The Twilight. It was hugely popular. And of course, with advancement in science, many traditional fears have been rationalized, yet the vampire endures. And perhaps maybe it's because it taps into something fundamental within us, a fear that no amount of logic can completely dispel. But it's still here. Are you like those horror movies? Yeah, there's a lot of these. There's a lot of decent movies, of course, with vampires, but of course, a lot of them are just junk. But of course, and even the modern vampire. So the vampires of old may have evolved, but their essence remains intact. Indeed, there are those today who even identify as a vampire. And some assert to possess a need for human blood or psychic energy that we talked about that. Now, those modern vampires, they usually exist in underground communities. And they live by codes of conduct, engaging in clandestine rituals, maybe secrecy to avoid societal retribution, if you will. So let's talk about some signs that someone may be a modern day vampire. They're kind of subtle. Some people have a parlor resembling moonlight, and inexplicable an aversion to sunlight, unnerving charisma that ensnares those around them. When I think about that, I just kind of like laugh a little bit. But it is interesting, isn't it? When you think about vampires, the type of vampires that we've talked about, I don't know. I am curious. Can we do this on TikTok? Can someone put, we're just going to do a little, and Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and all. I would be interested to see what you guys think too. But can we put a little voting thing? How many of you believe that vampires exist? Now, I'm talking about whether it be blood vampires, sanguine, and I'm also talking about psychic vampires. Either one. So, but if we can put a, hold on, we're going to do a little, hopefully someone will do a, I know people are saying, no, yes. But we're going to do a vote here in just a second. If one of the moderators could put that in there, I would love that. Because that would be interesting. I'm open to speaking to people who think that they are, but I don't know. So is there any way we can put, I don't know how to do that. A poll? I wish I knew how to do that. It would be good. Oh, we do have a poll up. Good. Okay, so we have a poll up here now. So there's a poll right up here. Well, my screen right up there. So if you're on TikTok, push that poll there. I'd be kind of curious to see it. So my question for those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and KGRDB Radio, we have a poll going now on TikTok. How many of you think that vampires actually exist, whether it be a psychic vampire or sanguine, people who actually say they need blood to survive, etc.? I'm just either one. I am curious. So we have a poll going on. We have about 15 seconds left on TikTok. So make sure you guys vote. Make sure you vote, because I'm really curious to see what you guys think. So is it Corey? Corey says psychic vampires do exist. I think their clinical diagnosis would be the antisocial dark triad rating. Okay, so we don't have 72 votes on TikTok. Let's just say 38% say yes. And 62%. I guess you can just say no. It's interesting. I tell you what, that's TikTok. Oh, did I say Tic Tacs? It's probably because I'm eating a Tic Tac. That's probably what it is. That's what I have. Tic Tac. I don't know. See, I'm kind of, I'm skeptical. Is it Tic Tac? Tic Tacs. Yeah, there's a bunch of people on Tic Tacs. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a blonde thing. We speak differently here in Kentucky. Okay, now, oh heck, now there was a person who a long time ago who said that they were a vampire, and I said, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I did, and they were willing to give me their answers. They wouldn't meet with me, I guess, because I have a collar, and I guess they thought I was going to judge them. But here's some of my questions. So I asked them, can you explain the origins of a vampire mythology? And so they say vampire mythology, it can be traced back to like various cultures, even Mesopotamia, which we talked about. And the modern image of the vampire, they say, usually stems from Eastern European folklore with figures like, people in remote Romania, Nosferatu, in German folklore. And I asked, so you believe this is folklore? And they said, no, I believe that is where it came from. But with every type of folklore, there is an element of reality. So I asked, well, how did vampires transition from folklore into popular culture? And so there was a book called John Polidori. So you might want to, if you're interested in that, it's called John Polidori, Polidori. It's called John Polidori's The Vampire. And that's spelled Vampyre. And that was actually written in 1819. Oh, well, thank you there. Thank you. For those of you who know what I'm thinking, there's people who are sending gifts to the ministry. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's in 1819. And then there was Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1897. So John Polidori's The Vampire in 1819 was before Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula was 1897. So that was interesting. And so then my question is, then what are some characteristics of vampires that you would define in folklore? And they said, again, the aversion to sunlight, immortality, a need to drink blood or enhance strength and abilities. I said, so is that your case? Do you not like the sun? And this person said, it's not that I don't like the sun. It exhausts me. It drains me. And I don't burn. They said that I don't burn or anything like that. I get really exhausted from the sun. I'm like, well, I think a lot of people do that. I do. I don't like it. It just kind of takes, it just absorbs. But I don't consider myself a vampire, for goodness sakes. I just think that I just never been a fan of it. It's exhausting to me. That's why I like cloudy days. And they do not consider themselves to be immortal. So okay. And they are a person that said that they feel the energy and need the energy from drinking blood. So they have a person that does a donor, and that they get tested and everything of this nature. But that's what they said. And then I ask, well, then tell me, when you're talking about modern vampire portrayal versus traditional folklore. Now, this was before Twilight, but knowing this person, I can guarantee you that they probably would be very upset with Twilight. Very upset with Twilight. Sorry, what is that, Judy Ann? Is that a place that's cloudy? Because see, I'm telling you, seriously, no. I agree with you. I am not a fan of really sunny days. I'm just not. You give me a time where it's cloudy, overcast, 65, man. Yes, Mr. Sparkles. I mean, seriously, when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, we have a vampire that sparkles now. Would vampires be considered a vampire? That's a good question. I don't know. I guess they would consider themselves to be vampires if that's who they are. But this person, I don't know. They were nice with their time, but I've never actually had the opportunity to sit down with one face to face. Oh, vampires, Hungarian inquisitors interrogated a pagan shaman during a ritual, and it claimed the existence of a demon named between blood drink. Oh my goodness, yeah, we'll have to do that. Yeah, Judy Ann is talking about going to some place and wow, where is that? Is that in Alaska? I don't even know where that is. Um, oh, you're home. Okay, cool. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. So, what rose? I asked. Oh, what about garlic? Is garlic really an issue? And they started laughing and they said, no, garlic is not a problem. And they don't like garlic. They don't really like the taste or smell, but no, it doesn't affect them. Oh, check. Okay. And my question then is, well, why do you need to feel the need to drink blood? And so they said, or this person said, that blood is seen as a life force, and to consume it is believed to replenish or sustain the existence, the energy. So I said, so you can exist without it. I mean, really, you can. Undiagnosed anemia. Yeah, Meredith, that's exactly what Meredith said. And that's really what I was trying to get at. So is this undiagnosed anemia? But I was trying to be respectful, but they were absolutely convinced. No. Okay. Isn't that why Exodus forbids it? Well, yeah, because it's considered unritual. Yeah. And this is why when Jesus said to eat his body and drink his blood, I mean, they were thinking, okay, goodness gracious, this is completely unclean, unnatural. And yeah, this would be something that completely different than that always, been taught. All right. We have are you going to, yeah, you know what? We can talk about ancient, she was an interesting, I had a presentation on her one time. She was a really horrible, horrible human being. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Elizabeth Bathory. Yeah, she was a horrible person. This what she did was terrible, terrible, and many people consider her to be a vampire. I don't know if I believe that she was a vampire versus I think she was just really sick, mentally. Yeah, she was a Hungarian noblewoman. She was born 1560, I believe. So it's been a while. She was one of the wealthiest families in Central Europe, and she's often described as one of the most prolific female serial unalivers, if you know what I mean. But what she did was terrible, terrible. For those of you who don't know, she married a Hungarian nobleman in 1575, but he was always around. He was always away because of military campaigns. And so he left her basically to manage their huge estate. So during the husband's absence, rumors began to spread about her cruelty and very sadistic behavior, particularly around young servant girls. And the most infamous claims that suggest Bathory tortured and unalived hundreds of young girls. And the allegations included flogging, burning, freezing, mutilation, even allegations of her bathing in the blood of young servants to maintain her youth. But to be fair, that particular detail, many people say is a myth, but we don't know. Again, to be fair. So, yeah, but the King Matthias, I believe, of the second, he actually he ordered investigation against Bathory, claiming and following the investigation, Bathory was arrested in the early, I think 16 something, and she was tried. She was found guilty, and despite her conviction, due to her noble status, of course, she was not unalived, but instead she was confined to her castle, now in Slovakia, where she remained until her death, until 1614. Can you imagine what she did to so many of these people? There's not a lot of debate whether that she did terrible things, but there is a lot of debate whether or not she uh, bathed in the blood. So that's a debate. But yeah, I can't imagine. Would a vampire be considered evil? The people that I've spoken to, if you're talking about psychic vampires, there are many people who claim that they are psychic vampires. I have met psychic or people who claim to be psychic vampires, and they did. Now some don't, so I got to be fair. Some disagree with the idea of going into a room and purposely absorbing people's energy because they felt that would be that's wrong. It's unethical. Because I have spoken to people who believe that they were psychic vampires, and they said, "No, I don't do that. I don't do that without someone's permission." And then there are other people that even brag about the ability to be able to go into a large room and to purposely absorb people's energy without their permission. So I can tell you that there is a huge conflict, at least, or at least a division, I should say, between people who claim to be psychic vampires, who say that is immoral, unethical, that is not proper, and then there are people who are psychic vampires and say, I don't care. I'm going to get the energy one way or the other. See, no, I most of the people, and I've spoken to a handful of people who are psychic vampires through the years. I wouldn't. They don't believe that they worship the devil. I think probably I've talked to about 10 people who claim that they were truly psychic vampires. And I would say the majority of them, 8 out of 10, were more of an atheist. They didn't really believe in that there was a God. They didn't believe that there was a devil. And that was the majority. Thank you. That was the majority of them. I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying that because I've only met 10 who claimed that they were psychic vampires. And the majority of them said that they really just didn't believe in God or the devil. There was one of them that was a Christian. They said that they were Christian and that they were one of the people that said you don't go and take the person's energy away. You don't do that without permission. That they have people that they feed off their energy, and they said it's just energy. But they get permission from them. So, and then there's one person that was blatant Satanist. I mean, so it's a tough thing. That's how they described it. So, yeah. I've been around. I got to tell you something. When you're at a paranormal conference, I have been around people that you just get that really uncomfortable, weird feeling from those people. But really, I'm an introvert anyway. So when I'm around a lot of people, I'm just exhausted. By the time I'm finished, I'm just truly exhausted. And so I don't necessarily agree that I was around a bunch of psychic vampires. I just, that's just me. Yeah, I'm more of an introvert. So when I'm around a lot of people, it's like, okay, I got to get some time away but anyway. So that's the story of vampires. Whether or not, who do I kneel to? That's a good. What do you mean? Who do I kneel to? Are you asking me, am I a Christian? Thrice? Yeah. But anyway, I would love to have a conversation with somebody who truly believes that they are sanguine, vampire, but hasn't come through. So, yeah, I have reached out to several people on TikTok, and no, they will not. One person said he would, and I kept sending messages and sending messages and sending messages. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to beg. So, who do I kneel to? I kneel to God. I don't kneel to a man. I kneel to God and God alone. So, yeah. But see, I've been in the paranormal community for a long, long time. And I've met a lot of people, and I respect people and their right to believe in what they wish to believe in. There are people that believe that they are vampires. There are people that, um, it's just, that's the thing. Well, yeah, association counts, but association doesn't mean that's what I am. So I can have, they said the same thing to Christ, because they called Christ a drunkard because he hung around with prostitutes and tax collectors. So this is the problem that I think in our society. Just because you have friends that are different than you, that doesn't make you that. I have friends that are Muslim, but I'm not a Muslim. I have friends that are Jewish, but I'm not Jewish. I have friends that are atheists, but I'm not an atheist. See, that's a big problem, I think, in our world. Oh, I agree, Thrice. I agree. But that's the big problem in our world. We believe that just because I believe diversity is wonderful. I love diversity. Diversity is very good. I don't necessarily have to agree with someone. They don't have to agree with me, but at least we can respect one another. But anyway. Okay, let's get into some of our topics, our articles, because I have a lot to go over, and some of these are really cool articles that I want to make sure that I get through, guys. Some of these are crazy. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, I will be here tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow, and I'm not leaving yet, but I'll be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our open mic. So, no, you're right, Thrice. You're 100% right. I like to live to serve all. Amen to that. So I'll be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with open mic. We talk about anything that you want to talk about. And Judy Ann and Miss Wilma will be here from 8 to 8:30. We goof off, have a great time. We tell jokes. It's just a good time to make you laugh because life is too stressful as it is. So we just have a good time. And then I'll get into your demonology because I didn't do a whole lot of demonology tonight. But we're not leaving yet. We're not leaving yet. So no. And by the way, don't forget, everybody, next week, Friday the 13th, I'm going to be live at the Bel Air House in Bel Air, Ohio. So I will be live at the event. So this is going to be a very fun show. I'm looking forward to it. It is a scary, haunted location. And so we will be there. I'll talk to people, interview people. Looking forward to it. It is going to be a lot of fun. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you tune in. I will be here on TikTok. So we're going to have a great time. I promise you, we're going to have a good time next week at 7 p.m. And I also, I think I will do the Saturday show as well, because I'm going to be live, but I'll be live throughout the day on TikTok. But listen to this, and I don't want to get into arguments about political stuff, who you're voting for, not tonight. Maybe if you want to talk politics, that's open mic tomorrow. To be fair, that's what it's called, open mic. But this is by, I want to read this to you and see what you think about this. Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, Donald Trump vows to release alien videos if he is elected president again. Well, there we go. Listen to this, everybody. Listen to this. So Donald Trump's latest efforts to get reelected include promising to reveal footage from real-life X-Files with the public, even though he says he does not believe in aliens, which he did say. I saw an interview, and he said he didn't necessarily believe in them. But he has vowed to share UFO close encounter videos from America's real-life X-Files if he is elected president again. He said he will push the Pentagon to declassify footage of alleged close encounters so they can shown to the public for the very first time. Now, Trump has had a decade-long fascination with aliens and unexplained sightings. There was, of course, he told a podcaster, Lex Fridman, he would surely make secret UFO footage public. And Fridman asked him, will you help push the Pentagon to release more footage, which a lot of people claim is available? And he says, Trump, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And I would do that. I'd love to do that. I'd have to do that. So, okay. So anyway, the former president, who was a Republican candidate battling Kamala Harris for the keys of the White House, said there could be life on other planets, and he claimed that he had come under pressure to declassify previous records of alien encounters, though he had resisted before. He pledged this time he would open up the X-Files. So there we go. If you're interested, just want to pass that on, and you can vote for him or not vote for him, entirely up to you. But there we go. Yeah, I do. I do. And by the way, don't forget, everybody, don't forget, next week, as I mentioned, I'm going to be at the West Virginia Penitentiary Horror and Paracon. And that if you want to get tickets, it's WV, as in West Virginia, WV Pen, PEN Tours, .com, WVPenTours.com. And you can get your tickets. It's going to be at the 14th and 15th next week. I'll be giving a presentation, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it's Saturday at 5 o'clock. I think I'm doing some presentation on Sunday, but not 100% sure. So that's next week. So and then don't forget also, if you want to be there at the Bel Air House, well, you can. When we go live on Friday the 13th, here's what you need to do. Just go to BelAirHouseTours.com, BelAirHouseTours.com, and there's a phone number. Let me give you the phone number, and you can go ahead and call them. Yep, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be everywhere on all of my platforms on, I'm going to be there on Friday on YouTube. So let me just go ahead and put this in there, 740-579-1841. So if you want to go to the Bel Air, at the Bel Air House on Friday the 13th, when I'm going to be live next week, you have to make sure you get tickets because they have limited seating. So I'm going to be there. Sean Austin's going to be there. Kristen's going to be there. We're going to be doing a little presentation. So 740-579-1841. I think you're there, Marlene. So yeah, make sure you give them a call and say, hey, it's at the Bel Air, Ohio. And so you can just give them a call or just go to the Bel Air House Tours and because she put there you go, Judy Ann put that in there. And there you go. I will not be at the Defeating in the Demonic in Connecticut. No, I will be there. It's just a video presentation that they're giving. So I will not be physically there. No. Yeah. So I will not be there, but I will be there at the, like it's a video, simple video. I think it's like a 5-minute. By the way, this is I don't know about this one, guys. This is a problem. Well, thank you as well, and to you, Johnny. This is a problem. Listen to this. This is by T.K. Randall. Can the bishop shed some light on the subject? Which subject is this? Wacky fizz? What's the... keep in mind, folks, for those of you who are new, I have 2 different computers running at the same time. So I have a lot of chats that are open and trying to, keep up with them. But so just what topic are you referring to? Yeah. Anyway, listen to this. T.K. Randall. This is a problem. There's a 1700. I need to understand why a man of God is entertaining such foolishness. Okay. Well, Tab, actually, it's called. The term is you're talking foolishness. Well, so you want to know, Deb? Let me explain to you. It's called block. Bye-bye. Okay. Sorry, Deb, but it's just the way it goes. Wow, isn't that amazing? It's amazing. It's amazing, Deb. I want to know why a man of God is talking about such foolishness. I want to know why you're watching. Isn't that amazing? Hey, Deb, you have an opinion on how I should live my life? And which bill of mine are you going to pay this month? Oh, you're not. Gotcha. Anyway, as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by foolishness. It's called foolishness. Just Guess there was a thank you, a 1700 unknown. I don't like this. 1700 unknown viruses. 1,700 unknown viruses are now discovered in a melting glacier water. This is crazy, everybody. 1,700 unknown viruses discovered in a melting glacier water. Yeah, seriously, listen to this. This is by D.K. Randall. This is as the ice thaws, there is a potential for long dormant viruses from the distant past to be released back into the world. So, in the plot of the classic science fiction movie The Thing, a team of researchers inadvertently unleash a hostile alien entity that had been frozen in the Antarctic ice for millions of years. Well, while this hasn't happened in the real world yet, it is not unheard of to find frozen organisms in ice that have not only thawed out, but also have the potential to actively infect. Well, that's wonderful. And this was the case recently when scientists conducted a study of a glacier in Tibet, discovering a whopping 17,000 viruses in an ice core sample dating back 41,000 years ago. This amount of viral information is 50 times greater than anything found in a glacier before. Those concerned about these viruses triggering some sort of pandemic, however, need be, as none of these 17,000 are capable of infecting humans, allegedly. They can only affect single-cell organisms. So even so, it does open the possibility of something that could infect human beings being thought out in the future, potentially unleashing some ancient virus on today's population. On a plus side, such discoveries are helping scientists understand more about our planet's history. Well, that's fun. Among these glacier archives are viruses that potentially played key ecological roles in the past before freezing. Now, according to co-author Matthew Sullivan, they dictated evolution and diversity from the bottom up. And these kinds of data are just so foundational for asking any questions about what Earth looked like previously. This is crazy. I mean, that's a lot. But that is true. I am hearing a lot more of these viruses, these viruses that are dormant, that are now being thought out. That is cray. That is yeah. So let's let's refreeze it. But yeah, that's kind of that's serious stuff, isn't it? To me, that's I don't know. I don't know. That there's something not right about. By the way, there's a video that you got to go check online. It's kind of funny, actually. But I wanted to pass this on to you. This is by T.K. Randall, and so listen to this, everybody. There is a bizarre video. Reportedly shows a goblin. You heard me right, a goblin, and we're not talking about Miss Wilma. A goblin that attacked a farm worker. So an extremely strange story out of Argentina this week pertains to an alleged attack by a goblin-like creature. And what is surely a contender for the bizarre story of the year, a young farmer worker whose name had been withheld for privacy reasons had reportedly been out on the field somewhere in Argentina on August 31st when he was attacked by a mysterious assailant who fell from out of nowhere, he says. Okay, so the entity, which initially took humanoid form before apparently turning invisible, reportedly dragged him violently from his tractor for several meters, leaving him bruised and unconscious. And later, when he came around, he told one of his fellow workers what had happened and showed off a number of nasty wounds that he claimed to have sustained during the attack. And it wasn't long before the Argentinian media had picked it up, with news reports referring to the mystery creature as a goblin, elf, or other name for an ape-like creature, a local legend. And the incident, by the way, has also become associated with a piece of video footage that has been doing the rounds on social media, which shows a small goblin-like creature running around next to a vehicle. It remains unclear if the video is supposed to show the same creature that attacked the farm worker. So, believe it or not, folks, it's there. You can go check out the goblin if you really, really, really want to. in Argentina. I tell you what, they must have some very powerful goblins. For those of you who are on Spreaker, I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. It goes by too fast, isn't it? It goes way too fast. Way too fast. So I'm going to remind everybody, don't forget tomorrow we're going to be here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our open mic nights, where Judy Ann, Miss Wilma, and I, we have a good time. We just tell a bunch of jokes. And also we have night prayer coming up at the top at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. So please join us if you like. We'd love to have you. And everyone is invited. We certainly would love to have you guys come out or just come online and just. Sorry, I'm kind of fixing up this. So there you go. We'd love to have you guys. It'd be wonderful. Just go to usocc.org, scroll all the way down to where it says night prayer. Click the link. It takes you there. And scroll all the way down. It takes you directions on how you can chat in the chat room. So don't forget, everybody, next week, Friday the 13th, at the Bel Air House live. Be very cool. Looking forward to it. My friends, remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless. Don't let any troll tell you or convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, KGREDB Radio. Good night. The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.